Most people start their day with this one habit. Cayce said it silently drains your energy. Are you doing it too? It sounds small, a single reflex at dawn. But according to Edgar Cayce, tiny repeated choices like that can, over years, quietly dim the compass of a life. Picture this. Your alarm goes off, there's a half-second of silence, and then your hand finds the phone. You scroll. Notifications, headlines, someone else's urgent priorities. You're awake, but your day is already reacting to signals that came from outside you. If this is your usual start, Cayce would say you're lowering your vibration, that is, shifting your dominant mood and attention pattern away from the purpose your soul chose before birth. In this video, I'll show you the single morning mistake that most people make, explain why Cayce thought it mattered for the soul's long arc, and give you a tiny, practical 3-step practice you can test for 7 days to see if your mornings begin to realign with what you most deeply intend. According to Edgar Cayce's readings, before we incarnate, our souls make choices about the lessons and opportunities we need. Cayce described this as a kind of pre-birth agreement, a blueprint or tendency we intend to explore. But once we enter dense material life, we tend to forget. That forgetting isn't a punishment in Cayce's framework. It's part of the design that allows us genuine choice. At the end of life, Cayce described a life review, a compassionate, unblinking mirror in which the soul experiences the consequences of its choices. It's not a courtroom. It's a revelatory encounter that shows where love and presence were given and where chances were passed by. And between lives, Cayce said some souls can linger in a borderland, a liminal state marked by regret or clinging to unfinished patterns, until they choose again or receive help from guides. All of this might sound distant, metaphysical, but Cayce treated it as directly relevant to how we live now. He suggested that life is a school of character, and that spiritual momentum is shaped by repeated patterns. If decades of small inattention accumulate, they show up in the life review not as condemnation, but as clear data. Where were you present? Where did you let yourself be distracted? That's the why. Now for the how. How does a tiny morning habit relate to those cosmic-sounding ideas? Think of each morning as a small version of incarnation. Each dawn you wake into a world of senses and decisions. The first choices you make, whether to anchor to yourself or surrender attention to external noise, set the tone for hours of action. In Cayce's language, your morning establishes a vibration. In plain terms, it shapes your mood and where your attention goes. If you habitually begin by reacting to a screen, a headline, or an urgent demand, you're effectively rehearsing being driven by other people's priorities.
Over years, those rehearsals can harden into habits that steer the larger narrative of a life. The morning mistake, then, is simple to name: starting the day disconnected, skipping a short moment of intentional alignment and immediately giving your attention away. This is not about moralizing, it's about mechanics. Cayce's model gives us a useful metaphor for the cumulative effects of small choices. If your day begins in reactive mode, you are more likely to move through the next 12 hours with a clipped attention span, making more reactive choices, which then compound into patterns. Do that for years, and Cayce would say the soul's life pattern drifts away from its pre-birth aim. The life review later shows missed chances for love, for courage, for expressing gifts. That's the warning. But Cayce's message is not fatalistic. He also emphasized the law of grace, the possibility of correction and rebalancing. So the practical question becomes, how do we prevent morning drift? How do we create a tiny habit that, repeated daily, keeps us aligned enough that months and years don't erode what we meant to bring into life? Before I give you the practice, a quick invitation. If you're curious about aligning daily life with purpose, hit subscribe. I make content that turns spiritual ideas into practical experiments you can try this week. Now stay with me. The remedy I'll share takes only a few minutes and is designed to be doable even on busy mornings. To make the stakes clear, imagine 2 lives. Person A wakes with the usual alarms. The phone is the first thing seen. Morning becomes a blur of messages, to-dos, and reaction. They skip breakfast or eat on the run. Work becomes a sequence of firefighting. Relationships are managed by calendar windows. Evenings are exhausted. Over years, Person A notices a slow thinning. Once vivid interests feel dulled, choices feel automatic, and a quiet dissatisfaction sets in. If we view this through Cayce's lens, the soul of person A may arrive at the life review and feel a deep ache, not because of some external punishment, but because the review makes visible the moments where presence could have changed outcomes, a patient conversation let go, a creative idea never tested, love deferred. The sorrow is the sorrow of lost opportunity, of recognizing what could have been different. Person B, by contrast, begins the day differently. The alarm goes off, but the first act is not to scan the world. Instead, they take 30 seconds to name one intention, a single word or commitment that aligns with a deeper value. Listen, create, be kind, courage. Then they breathe for a minute, grounding attention in the body. Then they do one tiny aligned action. Make a bed, send a short message of gratitude, write one line toward a project. It's not much, but it nudges the nervous system and focus toward choice rather than reaction. Day after day, these micro-choices accumulate.
Workdays still have chaos, but person B's momentum stays tethered to the directions set in the morning. Years later, the life review for someone like person B would show a pattern of responsive presence and moments where courage and love were practiced. The contrast is not dramatic like a movie transformation. It's the steady accrual of small alignments. So what is the practical remedy you can use tomorrow? Below is a simple 3-step morning experiment, grounded in Cayce's idea that repeated small acts shape spiritual momentum. It's short, secular-friendly, and meant to be an experiment, not a promise. Try it for 7 days and observe what changes in your attention, decision-making, and sense of purpose. Step 1. Intention. 30 to 60 seconds. Before you touch your phone, speak or think one clear intention for the day. Keep it to one line. A single value word is often enough. Patience, courage, presence. Or ask yourself a focused question. What's the one way I can show up lovingly today? The point is not to craft a long ritual. It's to interrupt automatic reactivity with a conscious aim. If you're spiritual, you might address it to your higher self or guides. If not, frame it as setting a personal intention. Step 2. Single breath centering. About 1 to 2 minutes. Take 1 to 2 minutes to center through breath and sensation. Sit or stand comfortably. Breathe in slowly for 4, out for 5, repeating for several cycles. On each exhale, let attention sweep the body briefly. Awareness at the heart, the belly, the feet. Think of vibration here as a shorthand for your dominant mood and attention pattern. This breath practice calms the system and raises the probability that your attention will follow your chosen intention rather than immediate external stimuli. If sitting quietly feels difficult, you can do a 1-minute grounding walk. Step outside, feel the air, name your intention quietly. Step 3. Tiny aligned action. 30 to 90 seconds. Do one small, concrete action that embodies your intention. That might be making the bed, washing your face mindfully, sending a 2-sentence message of gratitude, writing one line in a journal, or placing a visible note that reminds you of the day's aim. The action should be simple and achievable even on rushed mornings. The goal is to create an immediate match between intention and behavior, a micro-rehearsal of being who you want to be today. That's it. Intention, breathe, act. 3 small moves that take between 2 and 4 minutes in total. You'll likely feel nothing dramatic on day 1. The power is in repetition. If you commit to this sequence for 7 mornings and then reflect, you may notice shifts in how often your day is led by impulse versus purpose. That shift is the practical bridge between Cayce's metaphysical warning and everyday life. You might be thinking, I don't have time. My mornings are chaotic. That's exactly why this practice matters.
A short pause early makes later hours more effective. If you have 5 extra minutes, expand the breath practice. If you have 1 minute, do the intention and a tiny action. The practice scales, and flexibility is part of its design. Also, adapt the language to your life. If intention feels too woo-wooey, call it a daily aim. If vibration sounds odd, say mood or focus. The point is consistent alignment, not terminology. Now, to make the stakes emotionally resonant without being frightening, let me bring in Cayce's life review imagery, but keep it compassionate. In Cayce's readings, the life review is experienced as a panoramic replay of one's life, not through a detached narrational lens, but as a living immersion. You feel what you gave and what you failed to give, and in feeling, you learn. People often assume this would be punitive, but Cayce emphasized the review as restorative. It illuminates truth so the soul can honestly see where it learned and where it resisted growth. The hurt that appears is not wrathful judgment. It is the ache of recognizing that a chance to be present was passed by. Imagine watching a film of your life, and in a quiet scene you see yourself at a kitchen table with someone you loved, distracted by a trivial worry. You realize a conversation that might have changed a life was never had. The pain is the recognition of a missed moment of love. That's the kind of revelation Cayce described. He also described the borderland, a liminal space where some souls linger when attachments or regrets make immediate transition difficult. That sounds ominous, but Cayce's point was that such states call forth compassion and assistance. Souls are rarely abandoned. Guides and helpers in Cayce's model offer support and opportunities for reorientation. The law of grace, a recurring idea in his readings, means that awareness and willingness to change are the avenues of repair. So the life review is a motivator, not a threat. It invites us to notice now, to take responsibility with gentleness, and to make corrections while there is time. If that life review image feels heavy, let it be a compassionate nudge rather than a scare tactic. Cayce's emphasis was always on mercy and learning. Use the life review as a mirror for what small daily changes might prevent in the future. Not punishment, but regret. That gentle urgency is the engine for the morning experiment. Here are a few practical variations for different lifestyles, so this is not a one-size-fits-nothing practice. For parents of infants, intention can be a single phrase you mutter while the baby settles, gentle patience. Breathwork can be 3 long, deep breaths while holding the child. Tiny action, change one diaper with full attention, noticing textures and warmth. The practice is about bringing presence into minutes that otherwise get swallowed. For commute-driven workers, intention set aloud before getting out of the car or stepping onto public transit.
Breath-centered while waiting at a light. Tiny action. Place a sticky note on your planner that reads your word, so your day's decisions get a gentle reminder. For shift workers or night sleepers, anchor the practice to the start of your shift or the moment you wake, not to a clock. The timing matters less than the act of choosing before reaction. For creatives, intention could be experiment or courage, breath practice to clear internal critic, tiny action as a single line of writing or a 5-minute sketch. The goal is to get a small win toward what matters. If you worry that one small practice can't possibly counter decades of drift, remember Cayce's law of graduality. Change often happens in increments. Aligning mornings is preventative care. It doesn't fix everything at once, but it stops the erosion from accelerating. And if you've already drifted, Cayce's perspective gives hope. Realignment is possible. The same mechanisms that led you away can, with attention, be reversed. Small daily acts train the nervous system, shift attention patterns, and gradually alter habit loops. After several weeks of practicing intention, breath, and tiny aligned action, you might notice subtle but meaningful differences. Decisions that once felt automatic now encounter a slight pause. You choose differently because the day began with a moment of self-directing intention. You might find yourself more present in conversations, more willing to take a risk that reflects your long-term aims, or simply calmer when crises arise. Those are the kinds of changes that, over years, shape a life worth examining with less regret. Now a few practical prompts you can borrow. Use whichever fits your temperament. For intention statements, today I will listen more than I speak. Today I will choose courage over comfort. Today I will notice one beautiful thing. For brief breath centering, inhale 4, hold 1, exhale 6. Repeat 4 times. For tiny aligned actions, write one sentence on a project. Call or text a person you appreciate. Tidy one corner of your living space, or simply look at yourself in the mirror and say, I will try. Remember the rules. This is an experiment. Don't expect one morning to transform everything. Notice instead the quality of attention across days. Track subtle shifts. Are you less reactive? Are you making decisions that reflect your intention? Keep a 1-line log for a week. Date, intention word, 1 observation. That minimal feedback loop will show whether the practice is doing anything for you. Before we close, it's important to reiterate the metaphysical framework responsibly. All the cosmological ideas I've referenced, pre-birth purpose, life review, borderland, the law of grace, come from Edgar Cayce's readings. They are his metaphysical framework, used here as a lens for thinking about long-term patterns of attention and habit. You are free to accept, adapt, or discard that framework.
The morning practice itself is secular-friendly and stands on its own as a behavioral experiment. Intention, centering breath, and a tiny aligned action are proven ways to change how your day unfolds. This video doesn't claim mystical guarantees. It offers a low-cost experiment to test whether a minor habit can shift the cumulative quality of your life. If you've tried similar practices before and felt discouraged, give this one a compassionate retry, but shorten your expectations. Cayce's model emphasizes mercy and second chances. The remedy is always in renewed attention, not perfection. The most important thing is to begin again without self-condemnation. Now, here's a simple invitation. Try this 3-step morning experiment for 7 consecutive days. Each morning, before you reach for your phone, do intention, breathe, act. Keep one line in a note app about how the day went. At the end of 7 days, notice any differences in your mood, decisions, and sense of alignment. If you want a ready-made support tool, download the one-sheet checklist linked in the description. It has the 3 steps plus short prompts you can copy into your phone's lock screen. If this experiment helps you even a little, consider leaving a comment with one small change you noticed. Your experience might encourage someone else to try. You don't have to overhaul your life. You only need to shift one morning choice at a time. According to Cayce, small repeated acts are the schooling that shapes the soul's tendencies. Use this idea not as a threat, but as an invitation. The tiny habit you adopt tomorrow morning could be a protective thread that keeps your life's narrative closer to the purpose you chose to explore. Small mornings create soulful lives. If this resonated, download the checklist and try the practice for 7 days. Come back and tell me what changed. For now, take a breath, set one intention, and make one small aligned move. It's enough to begin.